Hi, I'm Doug Turnbull. I am a member of the American Custom Gunmakers Guild. I've been a member since early 1990s, and I got into the American Custom Gunmakers Guild as a metal finisher. I did bone charcoal, color case hardening, rust blue, charcoal blue. I did a lot of work and finish work for the other members within the guild and been able to contribute to many of the guns that they've raffled off over the years. And if you'd like to learn more about the American Custom Gunmakers Guild, you can scan the code on here and learn a lot more about it. I might suggest that you become an associate gunmaker and you can get all sorts of technical and knowledgeable information. Thank you for watching.
My name is Dennis Earl Smith, and I have been a Gunstock person since 1981 when I got hired at Kimber of Oregon to work in the stock shop. And it was in that facility that I learned all of my lessons on how to make custom guns. But it wasn't until I got out of that facility after 6 years, 1 month, and 1 day, and started working with shotguns that I started learning that I didn't know enough. I was already associated with the American Custom Gunmakers Guild as an associate, which I started in 1987, and I then started paying more attention to what made a good gun stock an expensive gun stock or a utilitarian gun stock. And because of that, I made a determination that I was going to become a member of the American Custom Gunmakers Guild, and I started learning what I needed to know. I am at the present moment shaping this gun stock to fit this new butt plate that the client provided after he broke. The gun got dropped and broken as he was coming back from a hunting trip. Darwin Hensley was the production manager at Kimber of Oregon. He became a guild member in 1985. And he made no bones about the fact that those of us at Kimber needed to get our act together and get into the guild. I can now tell you that 7 of us actually followed his words. First one was Pat Taylor, second one was Kathy Forrester, myself, and then we had Larry Peters, and then after that was John Fittinger, and after that came one more person that stayed around for just a really short period of time, and they left. So it's been a ride since 2003 when I became a member, and I'm very happy to have been on this ride for the entire time. I have worked at Reinhardt Fagen as the custom shop supervisor, and I was the stockmaker on record for Wesley Richards Agency, Springfield, Missouri, from 1998 until 2006. All right, now, this has got True Oil on it. I'll bet you my bottom dollar. I don't really want to use True Oil on this thing. So, what we're going to use is Pro Custom Oil because it's tongue oil based, and if I do it properly, you won't be able to tell the difference. This is straight. It has no color in it. My colored Pro Custom oil is over in the back corner. Wind up in your body, the better. When that dries, it'll look different than what it is when it's wet, but it is close enough. And the pores are showing, so I don't have to be super critical. It just has to look the same. And I've got one spot I'm going to have to touch up, which is right here when I had to fill it, because he lost a piece of the wood. What I can do is it's a little darker. I can take and blend in a little bit, because there's a line that comes right up to that. I'll have to do that afterwards. Craftsmanship, to me, means attention to detail, attention to the minute minutia, and doing it to the absolute best of your ability, whether the customer asked you to do it or not. Craftsmanship, as an associate of the guild, I got to see some of the masters, and I got to see what they did and how they did it. And when I asked them why they did it the way they did it, the majority of the comments came back, I did it to challenge myself to do a better job than I did the last time, and to make it special, not just for me, but for the client. That craftsmanship and being looked upon by my peers as worthy really was a driving force to bring me to the point that I am today. The trade today is not the same as it was, because back in the, we'll call it back in yesteryear, the heyday of the custom guns was basically the late 40s, 50s, and 60s. That formed the basis for the craftsmen who currently I became involved with, and there was a huge demand for the skill. Everybody wanted to hunt with a custom gun that was made from wood and metal, that was blued and maybe had some engraving on it, something that they could show off and say, hey, look at this. It wasn't a matter of how much did it cost at that point in time. Nowadays, at the level that we're expected to work at, majority of the people ask, how much did it cost? And that is more important than did I do a good job? Did I do the job that was necessary to make the client happy? When I started in this industry, most people said, don't fix it, build it new. I grew up on the tail end of a society where fixing it was more important than building it new because you didn't have the money to build it new. And I didn't have the money to buy it new or to go out and get it. So my job was to figure out how to make what I have, whether it was my own or it was a client's, good as new. And what was it going to take? And yes, there were many, many times when I scratched my head and I had trial and error, and I discovered that there are some things that work and some things that don't work. And that which doesn't work, why it didn't work. Um, I'll, for an example, when I was working for Shooter's Emporium in Portland, Oregon, shotguns were the major focus of the work. And we worked on shotguns from every form of the clay that use clay sports as their basis for usage. Gun stocks would get busted, and I would need to figure out how to put them back together so that they could go back into the competitive market and not break again. So I developed a process whereby I could glue a stock together and then run a 6 30-second all threaded rod from the front of the gun through thin wood all the way past the break so that it would absorb the recoil and then not break again. And that was not by design, it was an accident that it happened, and it turned out to work very well. And I've done an awful lot of them over the last 35 years. I like doing all of it. I like building custom gun stocks from the scratch. I like fixing gun stocks. I like taking things that people say are not feasible and not doable, and then making them doable so that they last. Because I don't like redoing my own work. I want them to hold up. So I figure out ways to make sure that that which I do hold up over the long time. Many years ago, I thought I was going to be a music teacher. I never thought I would be in this industry. I was good with my hands. I was good at listening. I was good at figuring things out that needed to be figured out. I came from a line of craftsmen and people who were good at getting things done. If you happen to have a desire to get things done, gunsmithing has multiple aspects because the gunsmithing trade doesn't just cover tactical or hunting or shooting sports or fine art. It covers all of it at the same time because every single firearm is a user and it's designed to be used and it's designed to be a tool to an end. If you're able to envision some way to get that done, I encourage you to do it because of the fact that right now, few and far between are the people looking at that particular part of life. It's not only viable, I've made a living at it now for over 40 years. I'm not rich. I will never be rich. But I have food on my table. My bills are paid. I have spent time with my family and my grandchildren, with my daughters. I've spent time exploring the United States. I spent time with other craftsmen. I spent and learning from them. Okay, and stealing ideas from them at the same time. because that's how creativity is sparked. You see something that you like, I can do that. It is it is not a matter of can I get rich? Because rich is a matter of mindset. It's not a matter of bank set. There are many, many people who have money galore and they are not happy. But I can tell you from experience that most of the people who are in this industry are fairly happy people because they're doing what they want to do, and they're doing it and making themselves understand there's something more to learn. Find a mentor. Find somebody who will put up with you. Find somebody who will encourage you and will stretch you. And I don't care if you're in gunsmithing or not. The most successful people in this world are those who don't stay with the status quo and they use their own initiative to explore the boundaries of whatever they're doing. Now, in my industry, we need people who think for themselves. We need people who are full of ideas. We need people who can say, I can do that. If you think that you have the ability to sucker punch your uh, your master by pulling something out of the hat that he's not expecting, do it. My mentor was a great man, and I'm forever grateful for Al Lind. And Al Lind was one of the two founding members of the American Custom Gunmakers Guild, Don Allen being the second one. Al has been a great mentor, and he's been a great encourager. And yes, he has taken me aside and talked to me like a Dutch uncle more than one time. You will never do it all right. But if your heart is in the right place, this is a good profession to follow.